Hey everyone, episode number 41 here for the Fitness Devil podcast. We have Bryan Krahn back. He was part of a roundtable recently, and now we have him solo. So we actually just cut the shit and talk about why this is really all about people wanting to look better naked instead of all the other excuses people make about trying to get fit. He talks about the hazards within writing for fitness pros versus everyday people. We talk about how Bryan really functions as a bridge between the evidence-based fitness community and a lot of the old school traditional aesthetic world. And he's really great at merging the best parts of both. We talk about some of the bullshit from the bodybuilding world that really needs to die off, the old school crap. And we actually have a pretty nuanced discussion about alcohol and how to deal with alcohol with clients and in your own lifestyle. And of course, we shit all over Doctor written diet books. I can't speak today, so guys, hang out. It's a really amazing episode. It's really funny. Bryan's super, and stick around and enjoy.
Peace. Shut up and sit down.
Hey everyone, we're laughing because some of the stuff that we just talked about off air, it's too bad we can't get it on air, but we have, we recently did a complete disservice to Bryan Krahn. We made him share the stage with Spencer Nadolski and Mike Isertel, and so we brought him back on his own because we wanted to talk to him. Bryan's a highly sought after Calgary-based personal trainer, coach, fitness writer, blogger, presenter, speaker, online physique coach. It goes on and on.
So like two of those are like consistent, but
you're everything, man, to everyone.
Yeah. There's a little repeat and redundancy there, but welcome, Bryan. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you very much, man. Good to be back. Glad I'm on my own, so I don't have to listen to Israel go on and on and on and sounding all smart and shit.
It sounds like he prepares for things, but he doesn't. His brain just operates on a way different level than all of ours, and he can just spit out shit. Like, that sounds smart. And it is smart, but it's just like...
I think he was in his underwear. He was like sipping on a protein shake. He just gave no fucks given whatsoever.
Yeah.
All right, so let's actually go into some of the stuff that we talked about and prepared for. And let's cut right through a lot of the package up industry shit and admit that deep down, most of what we deal with is people wanting to look better naked. And you've helped hundreds of clients look good, and you've made this your focus. This is your marketing, this is your message. Why do you embrace and go headlong into that where like a lot of other people really dance around? They're afraid to say it's about like looking good and getting laid and all this.
Well, it's because it's honest. I mean, the reason I got into this, like, working out after, especially, in university and, sports are done, is you want a result. You want an aesthetic result. You want to feel more confident, feel happier with your body. And that's what initially got me into this. And then you see all the other benefits, like, on your mental state and just good habits that transfer to other areas. But that initial spark is always like, man, I'd like to, I want to look more like Arnold, or I want to look more like Flex Wheeler. I wish. That's the what's the word? The impetus.
You want to look like an extraordinarily jacked and peeled black guy. Is that what you're telling the world?
Yeah, man, with a 26-inch waist. Yeah, that's
waist.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna get ourselves in trouble.
But like that's what gets you going, man. And then there's all the other things that kind of like, you start to geek out a little bit more on the health end of things, and you might even go down all those rabbit holes. But the initial spark is always just to look better. And I find that's I get people contact me all the time saying, oh, I want to dance at my daughter's wedding, and I'm just sitting here going, as soon as I talk to them on the phone, they want to lose weight, look better.
Do you think that answers like I want to dance at my daughter's wedding? I mean, I think that can be sort of legitimate, but do you think that kind of goes to the whole conversation about what you're allowed to say on social media and what a lot of people are pushing, that you're not allowed anymore? You feel like you're not allowed to actually say, hey, I want to look good, that it's important to look good, because we have corners of our industry that are actually attacking people who are suggesting that being leaner, being more muscular, being, quote, fitter, like there's pushback against that message.
Yeah. And that's like the big problem with that is, like if you're overweight and you lose 30 pounds, your blood pressure will improve. Your health, your lipid markers will improve. Invariably, you'll probably move better. You'll certainly sleep better. Many health markers will improve just by losing weight. So even could be a pursuit of vanity to begin with. So one thing that I've discovered working with a lot of people is that you begin by chasing vanity, and a lot of these health markers that will start to improve along the side. But if you initially start off by, we're going to chase this blood marker, we're going to chase whatever, something a little bit more esoteric, sometimes it doesn't light the fire as much.
Yeah.
And that's everything. It's because anybody will follow anything for a week or two, but it's getting someone to commit for months and delay gratification and put in the time, and you need to have something that stokes them day after day. So
well, and that's the low-hanging fruit too, because if you say, hey, we want to improve this blood marker, that may take a while, but getting fitter, even if they hadn't done anything, 2 weeks they can see results, and then that gets the carrot in front of them, and then all the other stuff starts changing.
I'm not sure anyone was ever sold on the idea of personal training or getting fit because it would improve their bone mineral density, right?
That's the thing. It's such a much more honest approach, because I'm not a doctor, I'm a strength, I'm a fitness coach. I'm not even a strength coach. I'm a trainer, and that's what I do. But I know my share about the other things, related to the industry, that I can see how they all kind of coalesce, and I can work them all in the right direction. So I just think, I try to stay in my lane and just get really, really good at driving down it.
And I think that's an interesting point too, because I think I find that a lot of people we see in the industry are jumping out of their lanes or trying to be in Brian's facial expression when I said that, if you're not watching the YouTube. People are dancing in some lanes that they really have no goddamn business being anywhere near. I'm going to try to get into examples about that. But I think a lot of the fitness professionals, and we have a lot of audience who are fitness pros, I think if you actually drill down and get really, really good at your core competency and build an image around that, and I think you may have actually done that better than almost anyone in our industry, and there's a reason why you're successful and have been so for a very long time, I think that will breed good results for people, instead of chasing everything, following too many people and trying to emulate people who, they're in the fitness industry, but they're involved in shit that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the thing. Once you have someone's attention that way, you have somebody, 3 or 4 days a week, an hour of their time, and hopefully giving you their undivided attention, and they're probably firing you text messages and emails about their diet and stuff like that. You have this huge influence on their life. So I can see the temptation from someone who's just, you're just a fitness trainer. You might have a certification and a degree. I can see the temptation to want to be, but I'm actually kind of a doctor, or I'm actually kind of a, soft tissue therapist, or I'm actually kind of this. And people, I can see how seductive that would be. And you're just doing such a disservice. It's so much better, more efficient to become an excellent trainer and have really, really good medical professionals in your network. And if you're going to learn anything not related specifically to training, I would learn stuff like, change psychology and habits and things like that. 'Cause that's where you can make a huge difference.
Well, that's where that whole, I think we talked about blurred lines in our last podcast, but that whole idea of you just being someone they can trust, and then just giving, we'll call it psychology, but just basic advice on that sort of shit, because you have their attention and trust, and they're more willing to take just, we'll call it low-hanging fruit or common sense stuff that's not common, but habits. That's not deep psychology, but it's good advice that they wouldn't take from someone else because they don't trust them. And now you're there.
Psychology is an inextricable part of what we do.
Yeah, it is.
Psychiatry, and you start doing things with eating disorders or whatever. No, that's completely outside of scope of practice. You leave that shit alone and refer out. But we cannot help people if we don't have a good grasp on change psychology.
Yeah, and that's it's pretty wide. Change psychology covers a lot of the intro concepts of all that shit, and it's pretty easy. Generally.
Well, yeah, and it's just right now everyone's trying, all these coaches are trying to, come off like they know how to break down research. It's my pet peeve. And, when you speak to people, a good friend of mine, I won't say his name, that's his PhD, is in breaking down research. And he won't even go into my industry anymore. He won't even fart around on Facebook with in the fitness scene because it just makes him ill. He's like all these hobbyists, trying to do what he went to school for 10 years to do. And, and he would like, why don't they just focus on being really, really good trainers and just contract this side of the thing out? I guess, yeah, it costs money. But it's such a much more efficient use of your time.
Well, and I think that there is some danger to it. Like if you get in some real shit, like you're talking about, like some serious psychoanalytic shit, like that can have a direct effect on their life negatively if you think that you can handle and you fuck it up. Like now you become someone who fucked their life up because you had no right getting in there. And I think that's the danger of this all. And like you said, it's seductive because that's power either way on either end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and I mean, like when I say learn about psychology, I don't mean like turn your training sessions into a couch session and you're like, tell me about your childhood and shit like that. But when you get really adept at just listening and looking for things, you'll know when you can kind of like jump in and say, have you ever spoken to someone about this? I.e. not you, but like you spoke to a professional about this. Like
Dean needs to speak to a professional about a few things.
I need to listen to lots of
episodes.
Yeah, I need to listen to a lot of people, but I know that. I don't trust Andrew enough to take his advice. That's all.
I failed.
This kind of brings up, like you talked about fitness pros and everyone kind of staying out of their lanes, but we also wanted to talk about how you mentioned people who write for fitness pros and kind of putting out content as a fitness professional. So we'll just say a lot of people try to impress other fitness people and maybe not their clients or their market. Can you kind of explain why this is probably a mistake and what they're missing out on by going the opposite route?
Well, they're missing out on a lot of money. That's like, good Lord. But it's kind of seductive. And I've fallen in that trap before. I've put out, not really blogs, but I put out Facebook posts that were looking back and go like, I was just writing for my fit pro friends. So they could high five me and I don't know what I get out of it. I get likes. You're like, what do you do with a like?
You take that to the bank. Yeah, take them to the bank and cash them out for money.
Unfortunately, I don't do that terribly often. And if I do, it's maybe 5 minutes of my time. But like if I'm going to invest my time to actually write something, it's going to be to my like target audience or to my clients, because that, those are the people that support me. Those are the people where I can affect change. And really, like, if you're not helping people, if you're not having a tangible impact on someone, and everyone thinks like, this post went viral, I'm having all sorts of impact. Like, you haven't done a fucking thing. The post went viral. What do you fucking do? Like shit goes viral every day. Like, when you actually affect change in someone that you can see and they tell you, directly, what, you changed my life in this way, like, which is something your everyday commercial gym personal trainer can do. They have that at their fingertips. Like, when you can do that, like, now you're now you're getting somewhere. Like, now you're a productive part of the industry. You're a productive part of society. You're fulfilling a role. Like, and
let's even turn this to Facebook a little bit, because I guess we talk about content, but there's a disconnect, and we kind of had this talk before the show, but people that are talking about topics that maybe aren't in their lane or whatever, they're trying to impress fitness pros, but their whole audience in terms of people giving them money are located on their Facebook. So is there kind of a way to navigate that, or is it just like, I don't know, how do you choose how to talk on Facebook, or do you just fucking do your thing? Like, because there's one way to go, but everyone's watching.
I drop and pop, man. I drop my content and I pop the fuck out of there. I just don't, especially, I'll be perfectly honest, like the whole, not to get too conspiracy, but like the whole Cambridge Analytical thing, like.
What's that? Explain that. I'm totally not familiar.
Like during the election, Cambridge Analytical.
Oh, yeah.
Like the data, like Facebook is such a dirty platform. Like it needs like a massive dose of Valtrex. Like it's just I don't know. I think they got to tear the whole fucking thing down and start over again, because it's there's so much people just gaming it for marketing and to get their name out there and get their brand out there, and it's it's affected the end user. The end user is very jaded now too. That's the thing, and I don't think Facebook has it doesn't have that feeling that it once had. It doesn't have that, oh, this person is speaking to me. I'm connecting with this person.
They're speaking to the likes, and I guess I can see that game because I even got caught up with that Instagram at the beginning, and now I just don't give a fuck. And I end up getting more success because of that. Yeah, I get more success that way, but it's because, you're tailoring a message to get the likes, but the likes are generally not from your audience. Like, it's kind of just a weird fucker system it's that carrot that everyone chases, that dopaminergic system, rewards, but you're getting rewarded for nothing except for likes, and likes aren't real.
There is an opportunity in this, though, and it's if you continue to put out things that actually will help people, valuable, genuine stuff. And if that is your message to cut through all of the noise, if that's your signal in the noise, you can do some really good stuff, and you can be kind of a point of light in what can be kind of a dark place.
Well, the way I did it was that it's like you said, you drop and pop, but the content you're putting out, you're doing it because that's the content you want to put out, as opposed to trying to put out content to get the like or to get the fitness pro or whatever. When you're putting out shit. Like, I think everyone does deep down inside, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, when you're just trying to be part of a conversation.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, advancing the conversation. Like, there's a huge difference there.
Absolutely. And everyone knows when they hit fucking post, like, whether that was for their own sake or for some of that other shit. Like, I've done it. I know that feeling, and I felt horrible. Now I'm like, fuck that. I'm not doing that anymore. It feels bad.
Attention and validation.
Yeah. Don't want it anymore. Don't care. I still want 10,000 followers on Instagram, but that's just because the swipe function. It's a fucking good business move. Like a direct link to wherever the fuck you want. Easy.
That's true. Be good for the podcast.
Easy to get to our podcast.
You also said, you mentioned the dumbest trend among fit pros nowadays. So you want to make that explicit?
Oh, man. Okay.
Dumbest trend.
Like, you know what? Okay, first of all, like, I'm in my 40s. Like, I've been at this a long fucking time. So, like, I'm coming at this kind of...
Before YouTube, before Instagram, before Facebook.
Oh, yeah, before all this stuff. And, lots of people are old like me, but, like, I've actually been earning my living at this since... 94, I was still living at home, so, But I started in 94, 97, like, full-time. Anyway... I
was 6, 7...
yeah. Thank you for fucking dating me. And I just now there's this trend like, and I've seen a lot of things come and go. And when I got into it, it was always like the macho coach, make you puke and go heavy or go home and all those bullshit sayings. And then it gradually that kind of faded away, which is good. But now it's brought about. Like the last few years, now we have the whiny coach, and it's just I just find it so kind of like repugnant, and it's not so much like everybody has problems. Like you have problems. Fuck Andrew, you got tons of problems. You got problems. I got problems. Everyone's got problems, and now I see coaches like whining, especially about this one, and it's the pressure to be in shape.
Ooh.
And I see this like going, oh man, people always on Facebook, they'll be like, oh, I hate going to fitness conferences because, man, there's all those other jacked people there and I just feel so much pressure, do I look good enough? And I just sit here like, do people actually, what kind of a coach actually thinks this? I mean, being in shape, like that's the best part of this industry. And of course it's hard, but like it's not a pressure thing. It should be an aspirational thing.
Well, I feel so much pressure to be jacked when I go to these conferences, right? This is a huge problem for me. I showed up this year and I'm like, oh yeah, we're good. And I look over and here's Stan fucking efforting, sitting down, hanging out. I was like, well, I'm the second biggest guy here this year, so that's okay.
Yes, yeah, I saw that. That's amazing.
He was super coach. Cool.
But here's the thing though, like, and the reason that's bad is it's not so much that I'm shitting on coaches who feel pressured. Like there isn't a day that goes by when I don't go into the gym where I feel like, man, I just I got to get after this. I gotta make myself better. I gotta try. I'll never be happy. I will never I'll be content. I will never be content.
That's the driving thing behind this stuff. That's the driving thing behind all this, why we're all kind of where we are, is because we're never going to be satisfied with this. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I never want to like look in the mirror and go, "Oh fuck, I've arrived." You know, like I just, you know, like where would I go from there?
It's called being. The positive way of saying it is we're all inspired to be better. We're not whining about what we're not. Like, basically go get after it in a nice way.
Well, exactly, and it's just, I would never want to put that, you know, that message out there that I don't like. I don't know, like. I would never want to put out a message that I feel a victim of this industry. Like, this industry is such a privilege. Like, look at what we get to do. Yep. I mean, you've heard about, you know, obviously everyone's heard the expression first world problems. Like, yeah. Like, I've been to third world countries and I've seen people who have way better genetics than me and have just given the opportunity what they could be. But they don't have the opportunity because they're drinking fucking water out of the street that looks like sewage. And, you know, they don't know where they're going to get their next meal. Or it's just, you know, then you see that and you're like, wow, like I have it, like I get to fuck around with my diet. I get to, you know, like I have so much food that I can be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to have a high carb day and then I'm going to have 2 low carb days and I'm going to see what it does to my physique. Like,
you get that option.
Yeah, like look,
you're right. Like, I think if people in some places of the world were actually sitting down listening to this shit, they would burst into flames from anger.
Like, I can fast for 24 hours and know that I may not die in 3 days. Like, I could just eat if I want to stop it. People are like, I'm fucking fasting. I'm hungry and I don't have any food.
Meanwhile, we got some really stupid motherfuckers pushing some extreme fasting going on.
I know. I remember I was in Haiti, and there's like literally like they were literally piling up garbage because there's like some political war between the city and this gang, and so they're like trying to garbage them out. Like they took all the refuse on the island, and they like piled it in front of this dude's door, like this community's doorstep. This is ridiculous, and people were like fishing through there looking for stuff to eat, and I'm like standing here going like man, and when I'm at home. You know, like I fuck around with, oh, you know, I'm gonna work in red meat and see if I get a little bit fuller out of it, you know, and then they'll be able to go back to chicken and see if it like, you know, if my digestion improves, like all these things that are just such luxuries. Not to mention like training, like being able to like hop in my car and go to like 10 different gyms and, you know, go about my thing. It's like it's such a privilege, and when you grasp that and you really, you know, internalize it, all of a sudden it becomes so much more fun again. Like training is fun because you're like, fuck, I get to do this, man. This is awesome.
One weird question to this, and maybe this is just devil's advocate, but like, do you think that the uprising of the whiny coach has, in a positive way, kind of served an under what do you call it, utilized market or whatever the fuck you want to go, underreached market?
Well,
that would not necessarily get into it, but they saw someone whining. They're like, yeah, like, fuck, I like that guy because Brian's fucking ripped. I don't like that guy.
Well, like when I say whiny, I mean like legitimate vulnerability. I think people who can express that and really tap into and connect with people who are kind of, I don't want to use the express, like on the margins, like they're never going to go to a gym.
Yeah.
But if they can connect with someone who's a fitness pro and they're showing a similar kind of vulnerability, and you can bring them into the lifestyle, and I mean there's nothing but good there. But when it's done, just to basically just to perpetuate your insecurities, or just to, you know, that's.
I think it goes back to exactly what we're talking about with Facebook likes. It's like the whining is that bullshit post to get more likes and to get more followers, as opposed to like being vulnerable because like that's your shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think there is a strong correlation between those two, and they're vastly different.
I think you can use a good example, I think, is someone like John Romaniello, who really openly talks a lot about depression. And he does it because, you know, it comes from a very personal place. But I think that guy actually genuinely wants to share and help a lot of people. And I think that can really connect with people and make the topic less of a taboo thing to deal with. And you know, that guy's a confident guy. I don't think that guy does anything to really worry about attention. And so I think that's a good example of someone who's doing it the right way. But
I think it's, you said it exactly right. Vulnerability, between vulnerability and whining. Like, is there a better word for, I like whining. Whining's fucking right.
Well, the difference is, whining it's all boils down to you.
Yeah.
Like vulnerability, like, you know, and first of all, like, you know, I've known John for 10 years and yeah, like, but I don't think there's a better writer in the industry. So he can kind of communicate, and it doesn't sound like it's the furthest thing from whining.
Yes.
And I also know he's coming from a legitimate place, but like for your like typical fit bro, I mean, if you're just putting out this vulnerability style stuff, and it's just really just to serve your own ego and just to like vent your own insecurities, like who are you helping? You're just looking for likes. You're just looking for, you know.
Oh, this fasted cardio this morning is so hard. Like,
God,
it's such a struggle. Fuck, right?
The grind.
Yeah.
Like beast mode.
You know what a fucking grind is? What a grind is if you're a single parent, you have, you know, 3 kids, you're trying to get child support out of your deadbeat husband, you know, you're working working 2 serving jobs, and you're trying to like find a way to eat healthy. That's a fucking grind.
And you can't sleep.
Yeah.
You can't regulate carbs, and you're fucking stressed and fuck. That is a grind.
Exactly. That should get the hashtag grind right there. Like that's like those are the people that I don't know.
I have what amounts to an allergic reaction to the word grind whenever it's used in either like social media, entrepreneurial exploits, or the fitness industry. It's just like
when I use it, it's totally because of that. It's like,
and I get a rash when you do. Seriously,
really? You get mad?
No.
Okay, good. I'm totally doing it.
I've never noticed that you've done it. I'm probably gonna now, but
it's usually one of those ones where I'm putting a fake wine post and I'll put like hashtag beast mode, but it's totally like my way of like being sarcastic. Probably super horrible, but it's hilarious.
Dean's been writing over and over in his paper. Do not write whiny shit.
I'm writing whiny shit, it's like almost overly whiny to the point where everyone knows I'm joking, but then maybe someone does it. Whatever. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Actually,
it all comes back from someone's motivation. Like if someone legitimately needs to be picked up, and and Facebook is a way for them to do that. I support that, man. I want everyone to be happier. You know, I want the world to be a happier place. But so much of it, there's a mechanism behind it that's connected to marketing, and that I just find that's just the lowest of the low.
It's the bullshit meter. It's what you're talking about is when you look at someone's post and you know it's bullshit, and you know they're trying to get something out of someone. Like if that dings, then it's whiny. If you can actually be like we've all had posts probably where we posted shit, but like it was real, and you get real responses. The stuff that's whiny just gets all the bullshit.
Well, yeah, and it shouldn't. And this is just my opinion. Is that like real vulnerability shouldn't come easy. Like I remember about a year ago, I had my son, and like we were trying for years. My wife had breast cancer and resulted in a bunch of problems with fertility and stuff like that, and just a bunch of rabbit holes, like fertilizing eggs and finding a surrogate. It's like crazy. And I remember when my son was born, I'm like, I'm going to write about this process that I went through, or we went through. And it's been, my son was born in July. I haven't been able to do it yet. And I'm a pretty good writer. I just haven't been able to do it. I haven't been able to put it out there because it's so real to me.
Yeah.
And even though I know that there's other dudes and other women who, my age are in similar kind of predicament and going through the ups and downs that we did, I haven't been able to do it yet because it's real, and it's like it's so big inside of me, and I respect it. And just the thought of like throwing, I don't know, just the thought of trying to use that to like get likes or just get affirmation, like it just that I find that kind of repulsive.
It goes back to what we talked about with like we have great power with I guess our real audience, and like if that message is, let's just say, done half-heartedly, it may not have the impact that it deserves. And I think that that's where we do yield power when people have eyes on us, especially people that have our trust.
Now, conversely, if out of fear of doing it the wrong way, we miss an opportunity to actually talk about something that really could be beneficial to people. I have a few clients who have gone through that same or very similar process to what you just described, and a lot of the in vitro stuff and like trying over and over. And there's some pain, and there's a lot of like that shit's not a fun experience. To say the least. And I couldn't appreciate that because I haven't gone through it, but I've been told intimate details of it. There are people who really are going through this stuff. And so you are in a position to be able to write something that could speak to other people about the same thing.
But when you're getting ready, he's like, fucking write it, Brian. Like, I want to see it. It's going to be great.
He'll do it when the time is right.
It won't be whiny. As a joke in my head, I would go on there and be like, hashtag beast mode, hashtag whine. But that would probably come off like a dick, so I won't do it.
No, I mean, there's as painful and tumultuous a process as it is there's like anything. The other thing is that you have to provide value to people. And like my kind of thing is, if I'm not providing like training value, whatever that means, like I try to offer some humor.
Yeah.
But like even in that subject, there is a lot of humor to it, like especially for the guy. I mean, when you're the guy in the fertility process, they just got to know that you're making swimmers. That's all they really care about. They don't care about your health or your well-being and all this, or your stress. And so, like, frequently you have to go to the clinic and, provide your sample. And when we were going through this, like, we were moving a bunch because my wife was also in school. And so I've visited, I think 5 different clinics.
Provided a lot of samples.
And it's like in one city I was in, you go to the room is just like a desk, like in a chair, and like a couple of magazines that they give you for stimulation, and they were like from 1992. It's like Hustler and Car and Driver.
They saw your age. Like, how old are you? They're like, get the 92s. Get the 92s.
I'm guessing you're like just grabbing the pages like by the quarter, gingerly just like flipping them, hoping they're not stuck together. Like, just the whole image of this is terrifying.
Exactly. Then you go to New York. When I lived in New York City and I had to go through the process, it's like video and just internet, and I'm surprised. I'm sure if you paid a little bit more, you'd get like, I don't know, probably someone to help you. Like, it's just like
shit.
How many samples did you provide? And like, were you just
how many samples did I provide? Many.
They're like, Brian, you can't come back anymore. I just want to provide more. I just want to see. I just need to see. Like, you've been here 5 times this week.
And I'm just hoping that there wasn't like one other guy that you recognized from multiple places who's looking at you.
Oh, that's the worst part. That's even worse than the actual like
providing
process. Is the waiting room, because you're there and you're like 30 other dudes and you're all just kind of sitting there and everyone's kind of like on their phone and shit and just like. We're all looking at each other going, yeah, I'm
hashtag grind.
I'm going to the room, we're all here for the same reason, but no one says anything. Like, no one does like the bro nod or nothing. Like, there's no solidarity. It's just, I don't miss that at all.
I would have done a nod, like, yeah, man. Hashtag beast mode. Yeah. Hashtag provide.
Yeah.
Whoops.
All right.
Let's skip this over to actually something aesthetic.
Well, you mentioned earlier about like coaches getting too caught up in evidence-based stuff and trying to be research people, but then and our corner of the industry tends to think of itself as and brand itself as evidence-based. And I've always specifically thought of you in this light. I've always felt you were kind of a critical bridge between that world and well-liked within it, but also big part of the more traditional aesthetic training community, old school bodybuilding world. Yeah. And a lot of great ideas come out of that world. And I think our industry sometimes tends to reject them wholesale, a little condescending about it. They get dismissed. Yeah. Why is that? And then what valuable wisdom is our evidence-based community missing out on by devaluing the traditional competitive approach? And I could use definitely like mind-muscle connection as an example of that. So your thoughts there?
Well, the biggest thing is that... like, the one thing, I feel really bad. Well, I don't feel bad, but I feel bad for guys like Brad Schoenfeld, because he'll put out a Facebook post and he'll say, here's a study that was done, and these are the results. It's and you'll always end it with like, this suggests, or this, but more study is needed. And the people will jump in. Always these kind of young coaches jump in and go, yeah, there it is. There's the answer. That's what I got to do. 7 to 9 sets per week, or whatever they happen to be studying. Whereas, that's not what, like one study in isolation doesn't tell you a heck of a lot. It's just like what Brad says. It's like, it's interesting, but more study is needed. More research is needed. So that's always where I kind of like raise an eyebrow. It's not at the people doing the research, of course. It's the people who, think that they can interpret the research and work it into their practice if they're actually coaching people. But to your point, your other question, what can people learn from old school? Like, there's so much of like old school bodybuilding that is bullshit. But the things that are so valuable is stuff that you don't see like in a training program or in a study, and that's stuff like focus, commitment, effort, like working past your comfort zone consistently. Like, that's what people can learn from, watching meatheads. Like, I never pass up an opportunity to train with a total meathead, even if even if half the stuff he's doing is wrong. I don't key in on that. What I look at is like how they approach a set. Because if someone's been training for 15 or 20 years and they're huge, they fucking know something.
Yeah, they figured something out.
They figured something out, and it's not their exercise selection or whether they supinate at the top of a curl. It's like it's always things like their focus during a set or how when they know when to go again. Like rest intervals is always obviously a huge thing that people argue about. But when you do this long enough and consistently enough, you figure a lot of stuff out, and that's what I kind of key in on. So like you mentioned, Stan Efferding. Yeah. Like the reason I have such huge respect for him is that he has so much respect for the old school. And like he mentions, like he loves Flex Wheeler, and he worked with Flex Wheeler for his last prep and made all kinds of gains, and it's just all using stuff that you'll never find in a textbook or hasn't been studied yet. But he's he's applying it and he's trying it for himself. And it's not like just because something works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. But, as the saying goes, like success leaves clues. So you're kind of stupid if you ignore that.
Basically, you only like him because he likes your idol and he worked with him. You mentioned Flex Wheeler. Oh, is he gone?
No, Stan Efferding is on my idol list. But,
and Stan,
but that's what I like about.
And Stan's around. Like Stan's older male.
He's been around a while.
Yeah, he's 50.
And he's survived. And he's strong.
He looks great. I sat down with him. I got to spend a bunch of time with him because I think a lot of the other people in Kansas City didn't quite either like appreciate or know who he was.
Yeah.
Or they're focused on different shit, and like they're probably a little bit more caught up in say Mark Fisher, who is a beautiful and wonderful human being, and I love Mark and I count him as a friend. But I think a lot of the people there might have like really been like enthralled with say Mark, but not necessarily appreciating just who Stan is and what he's accomplished. So I got to spend a lot of time talking to him one-on-one, and the guy's amazing. And
I stopped talking. I saw him walk in the room, and I was like, "Why is Stan here?" You know what that fucking is? No one knew who he was except for like all the Jack dudes.
And he was just excited to be there and learn. Like he was just super humble about it. He was really curious, and he just wanted to absorb the stuff that was going on in these presentations.
But he knows shit. So like you're right. Like we'll call it Gym Bros bodybuilders, but he knows shit. He's been around. He's also I think deadlifted like fucking 800 pounds and squatted like he's done shit. And so that doesn't happen by accident, even without the science.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And he has the utmost respect for the science, and like his vertical diet is. There's tons of references in it, but like that's something that I try to emulate at a much lower level in myself. Is use all different forms of success to inform your decision making, and it's not just what a study might suggest. It's like what someone who's been fucking training for 20 years. They know stuff, and it's on you to like try to figure out what it is.
Well, and one of the things to that is like I got in this argument recently, but it's just like. The science is behind. I don't care what fucking people say because they just started qualifying the fact that calories in and calories out is like right now. Like everyone fucking knew it, and then now there's these long-term studies saying it, and so like we just believe it now that it's happening, or were people doing it before that because they fucking knew? Well, and it's just like you can't use science as your crutch all the time before things are happening. Stuff's happening all the time.
I remember the NSCA, one of the last. I got my CSCS. I used to get the journals. Yeah. I don't get them anymore. I think I changed my address, but I remember one of the last things I saw was like cluster sets, a novel way to get strong. And like I learned about cluster sets in the early 90s, and I just learned about it from another coach who learned about it from another coach, and it dates back all the way to I believe like the 40s or the 50s. Cluster training, and I'm like a novel way to get strong. Like what the fuck? I mean, like this is it's not, you know,
It's
certainly not new to me.
There's a ton of stuff that came out of the old world, and often Arnold is the one who popularizes stuff. I mean, Arnold was big into high volume training. Arnold was big on mind-muscle connection. Now, again, there's also some bullshit too, like the muscle confusion principle is the one I always like to point out. It's like, all right, that one's kind of bullshit.
Well, that's where science is needed. Like, it's good to be there, but I think that it'll roadblock a lot of people from trying new shit because they're like, we have to wait. Well, it's going to take a while.
Well, the thing is, if you have great genetics and a really strong work ethic and on a lot of drugs, everything works.
If you confuse the shit out of everything, it'll work.
Like everything works. Like as long as there's an element of progression to it, it doesn't even have to be. Like as long as you're working the muscle, if those other elements are there, hard work, genetics, drugs, obviously food, it's gonna work. So you start taking away those variables though, and now you need science to kind of like, okay, what actually matters? So that's where you got to always look at what the old school guys are doing, or current pros, and take it with a massive grain of salt. Say, okay, they've got all these other variables working with them, so I can't just follow what the fuck they're doing. I might not be as genetically blessed or have the pharmacy or all that other jazz. So, but there's still stuff that you can take away from it, and it's always mental. It's always like focus, and it's consistency, and effort. Like that's the biggest takeaways.
And those things are universally true, no matter if you're trying to lose weight and keep it off, or if you want to be a competitive bodybuilder.
And that's where evidence does play helpful to like the general population, because like there's not going to be people like us that are going to try to disseminate the grain of salt with some of that shit, and that's what people got their information from before. Like it was like you get your Flex magazine, you fucking have your Men's Health, just do whatever it fucking says, and probably won't fucking work. And now the science is kind of helping people understand, because that's pretty much black and white in terms of, well, mostly. But yeah.
Now let's flip it.
Well, actually, let's talk about the shit that needs to fucking die off. So, essentially, the ideas from the bodybuilding world, let's just go bodybuilding world, that need to die off. Basically, that all the Insta pros continue to perpetuate, that as real, and that needs to fucking change. Or die.
Stuff that needs to die off?
Get taken out back and shot.
Oh, man. Where do I start?
The shot. Preferably to the head.
Like, stuff that needs to die off, like... I don't know, man. Like the things that bother me lately, lots of things bother me, but I really don't like the whole reductionist approach to everything we do. Like you said, calories in, calories out. Like that's the biggest thing. And for fat loss or weight loss, absolutely, that's the biggest thing. But now it's like people have reduced foods purely to a macro level. Yeah. And like with absolutely or very little regard to food choices. And again, now you're, taking it so far that, it doesn't matter what you eat as long as you're in a calorie deficit. I'm like, who the fuck, like that's just so not true.
Quality matters.
And those, like the type of arguments that I refuse to get into, because it's fucking moronic. And, but what else needs to die off? Well, I hate the training is war thing. I've always had a big hard on against that.
Explain training is war for our listeners.
Training is war, the whole like...
You gotta suffer, brother.
No, the gym is the battleground, or whatever the fuck. My body is a war and the gym is a battleground. I don't know, man. All that ad copy bullshit that tries to like... Because I know where it comes from, because I've worked in that world as well. And it's just like... The majority of people who buy supplements are young guys, and typically they're young guys kind of on the right of center. And so like these ad companies will fucking try to just pierce into that, and with like lots of war analogies and battlefields and suffering. And it's just, not only is it painfully disingenuous and fucking stupid, it also just leaves the wrong message. So when these guys get a little bit older, they don't have that joy. Like they see this, I gotta go to war, man. I got my weight belt off the war. Like they don't see it as a thing they do for fun and joy and add quality to their life. So I have a big problem with that.
Best part of my day. Often enough.
Like fuck, about to go to war with my concentration girls. Like, come on, man.
Jesus. Yeah. If you actually ingrain and... Okay, I like that one.
I know your graphic.
We got his graphic. If we ingrain this idea that exercise is supposed to be unpleasant, that actually can cut through on a deeper level. And it can be particularly bad for anyone who maybe is struggling to lose weight because it's already unpleasant, the thought, the idea. We really want to make it something that is a joyous and fun and positive experience. So I think actually as coaches, it is a good idea to be very careful about those kind of messages and really try to let potential clients and people you're going to work with see it as something that they can really enjoy instead of dreading it.
Yeah, you have to. It has to be fun at some level, and you have to. And some people just absolutely hate exercise, and it's a real chore to like find what that button is. But you have to find it and fucking push it, because if something isn't fun, it is just not sustainable. And if it is sustainable, then it's a stressor.
Yeah.
So like if you force somebody to do something that they hate, but they do it out of sheer work ethic and will, they'll still get shit done, but they will hate it.
Well, and if something else gets added in, like let's just say a bad breakup, a kid, they get foreclosed in the house, lose their job, now they're fucking overboard and they're done. And so like you can't run at fucking full capacity with stuff that stresses you out. If it's lifting, you got to reverse that from not being a stressor because that's not good.
Well, yeah, because like the big, and that kind of ties in another thing. I'm especially as I've gotten older, I really hate the fitness tourist, and I hate the, and you see this a lot in, kind of in meatheads too, with the bulking and cutting. And I get it. If you're trying to build muscle, especially at a younger age, there's nothing better than going on an extended bulk, getting a little fat, holding that for a bit, and then dieting down. Like there's just no better way to add muscle. And that's a very kind of small part of the population, but the average person always gaining and losing that 10 to 15 pounds. I call them they're fat loss tourists. And it's like I lived for a few years in New York City. But before I did that, my wife and I would go there and just visit. I probably visited there 10 times before I actually moved there. And whenever I'd visit, I was like a tourist. So I'd be like, New York, sleeping 2 hours a night and doing everything and just running on adrenaline.
Sperm banks.
Well, no, that was when I was living there. But it's just like, but it's not sustainable. You know what I mean? I'd get home and I'd just crash. And, because, I was just a tourist there. I was just doing fun shit. When I moved there, all of a sudden now I got to find an apartment, get a phone, find a gym, do all, where's my grocery store, all that stuff. And you find your ways to relax and settle in. That's when I actually, understood the city a lot better and my place in it. And that's the way you got to view getting in shape, is you have to kind of see it more as a resident than being a tourist. Like, so if you start off with all these like hot things, like, I'm going to do, 30 minutes of fasted cardio, and I'm gonna, train 5 days a week, and do fucking Tabatas after, and then I'm gonna, gonna carb cycle, and then when that does, all the shit, like none of that is sustainable. Like you have to kind of start on like a very, something that you can do every day that's chill, that just fits into your lifestyle, that's like you're a robot, and just live it for a long time. And then all of a sudden you don't have these weight swings. And you can make kind of slow gains in muscle, or, tighten up, certain times of the year. And it's just a much better place to be.
It's a good article. So, you should write it.
Yeah, you can fucking steal that, man. Go ahead.
No, you're like, fuck, I don't want to write it. I'm done, Con.
Well, this kind of goes to what we're going to ask you next. And like you actually recently said that 90% of the stuff you post on social media is about lifestyle.
Yeah.
Why do you focus your efforts there, and why are these nuanced and often difficult to quantify discussions so important?
Well, it's just everything else, like all the, like for example, setting someone's calorie level, like that's just an equation. Like there's a million of them online that you can find. So you take somebody's stats and you bang them into the equation, you come up, okay, you should be eating 2,300 calories a day. Okay, great. That's wonderful. And even if that number is exactly where they need to be, it's fucking meaningless if they can't do it consistently. If they can't hit that number consistently. It's utterly useless information. So like time, you need to spend time on the things that actually, support the outcomes that you're achieving or you're trying to achieve. So, I mean, I'd much rather help a person like simplify their diet, work it around their lifestyle, as opposed to like, here's your calorie level and here's the 5 meals a day you got to eat or whatever, or here's your fasting protocol that I think is awesome. I'd rather take what someone's currently doing, I call it their way of traveling, and just make it better. So it doesn't feel so much like this big change. It's basically kind of optimizing what they're currently doing, because then they can do that long term, and that's when you get results and you don't get the big rebound after. So that's where lifestyle is so important. Like I started with a new guy 2 days ago, and he was just very straight up. He goes, Friday nights, I like to, go with my buddies and drink beer. And I'm like, if you hung up on me right now and asked for your money back and all you did was cut that night out, I said, you're going to get results. Like, you're going to get great results, Like, it's just like, those are such huge things to address that are so much more important than, whether they have 200 grams of protein a day or 225.
And let's go there, because like that was another one of your social media posts we wanted to kind of bring up was, I guess, the tough conversations surrounding, lifestyle, but alcohol even, and simply telling people about the calories and alcohol and all that shit. Yeah. Can you kind of elaborate on just even going more specifically in that for more, our fitness enthusiasts and people who have those questions?
Yeah, there's another thing I'd like to stop seeing is people writing about ways to work alcohol into a diet. And everyone's like, I can deduct these calories out of my carbs or my fat and still be in my magic calorie deficit and all this. And I'm like, talk about short-sighted thinking. Because first of all, if someone's got an alcohol problem, you do not want to enable that. like that's, but granted, that's out of your purview as a coach. But if they confide in you, if it's clear that they have an alcohol issue, you don't want to help them find ways to work it into their life. But even if they're just like a social drinker, you can figure out the fucking calorie math, but what happens to their sleep? What happens to their cravings? It's the cravings the next day that are huge. The disruption to their everyday pattern, like the reigniting of old bad habits. Like, there's so many things that go beyond just the bullshit calories and alcohol. Like, so you're so cool. You know how to work in, 6 beers by reducing their carbs and fat and all this. Like, you're not helping someone. Like, you're making the numbers add up, but you're not helping them build a better physique or improve their life.
I've personally noticed that any time that I've had a client I work with who made a fairly significant change to their alcohol consumption, you see some pretty dramatic, visible results in their physique and their fat loss just by that alone. And in a few places I've worked with some clients over the years who are completely and utterly resistant to any effort to try to change their alcohol consumption. It was really embedded behavior. Yeah. They really often struggled to see results. And this one particular thing often was a major, major obstacle to any real progress.
Oh, totally. And again, it's so often so much more than just the alcohol. It's just, if a woman's drinking 2 big glasses of wine a night, she's probably having some cheese with it or some crackers, and she's probably not sleeping great. And that's all beyond the actual calories in the wine. And from a purely aesthetic factor, especially once somebody gets lean, it makes such a huge impact on fat loss, and some people just don't metabolize out. I don't want to jump into bro science, but you can just see it in their fat loss pattern. You take alcohol away and all of a sudden they start losing fat off their trouble spots, and it's just, I've seen it, I'm not a big spot reduction guy. But there are certain instances where it's dramatic. It's just like when, I don't it's like when someone goes on TRT, invariably they lose fat in their abs, and just because that's just, you see it right away. So I'd be remiss not to say that there's a connection there. So well,
there are hormonal things there going on.
Totally.
There's stress systems. So yes, spot reduction, that's more or less largely been debunked. But there are certain places on the human body that we store body fat for certain reasons. And visceral belly fat has a strong relationship with hormones and with stress. We know that. It's also more prevalent in men. So maybe there's I don't know, maybe I'm guessing here, maybe there's a relationship between declining testosterone levels and accumulation of belly fat. It's probably not a direct one-to-one relationship, but there's probably like some stuff that runs together. You improve someone's testosterone intake and some of the changes that are around that. It doesn't shock me that you see a reduction
without diet. There's been studies where like testosterone they lose almost like 5 pounds over, I think it was like whatever 6 or 7 weeks just from like literally doing that, and you add diet in the equation. Like, so there's obviously something. Well, testosterone.
I know. Well, I mean, I'm kind of from that world too. So I mean, you work with enough meatheads, and it's just like it's just once you bring testosterone up, or they, not me, but once they bring testosterone up, preferably under the auspice of their physician, you just see it like that. I mean,
cut liquor out.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like, I guess, like, people are coming to you for, they know the fucking answer. Like, if you want, like, a direct result on, like, a better lifestyle and better fat loss, like, cut the fucking liquor. And I get the whole point of adding it in so people feel normal and stuff, but that's not the answer you're going to give. Like, it's not correct.
Well, and that's when you have to know your client, too. Like, I got, I have some where, like, it makes sense. Like, okay, they want to be able to have a drink or two at a certain social event and not look like it, not feel like people are looking at them and stuff like that. And then I have others where, like, I literally have to say to a guy, because he was constantly asking me, well, what if I only have 3 drinks on this night, and then I have, 3 drinks on this day? And I'm like, dude, you have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, you keep asking me ways to rationalize your fucking habit. And this is literally what I said to him. I go, this isn't going to work. I go, I can come up with all these scenarios for you that might, like, make caloric sense. I go, but you're fucking yourself up here. Like, you have a problem. And, she was like, yeah, I do. And he's like, he's a stressed out banker guy. But he needed to hear that in that tone from me. But this is just somebody I've worked with for a very long time.
And you have to have that trust built up, because if you don't have that relationship with that trust, you could very quickly send that person off to a coach who will give them the macros and their alcohol, you said, and they'll give them the answer they're looking for instead of the answer that they deep down really
and it's
need.
that difference between, like, a social drinker, like having, like, going out for a bachelor party or something. Like, that's just, like, we'll call that normal shit. But when it's a stressor to have alcohol in your diet all the time and then have to plan around it, like having to plan alcohol so you can drink alcohol and fit into your diet, that's a stressor alone. Like, you're thinking about, how do I fit my fucking alcohol in it? That's a stressor.
This whole conversation makes me think about, of course, Kansas City, and that's where I first met you 2 years ago. When you presented, you weren't there this year, but we were all there. And I mean, for a bunch of fit pros get together, the amount of alcohol consumed, and I was guilty of that. But then there's a few people, I'll use Dean Somerset as a good example. He can throw in, like, he can have a beer or two and then shut it down, and he's really balanced.
Well, we're tourists. It's that tourist mentality.
Some of us is just like, this is an excuse to go completely insane. So we see some interesting shit. Even
we're not residents there. It's a fucking tourist atmosphere, and then we go back to being residents. Love it. It fucking works.
It's and again, everyone's different. Everyone's goals are different, and everyone's like, everyone's baggage, for want of a better word, is different. Yeah. And just my job as a coach is to try to figure that out as quick as possible. I try to figure out a few things really, really fast. And it's someone's volume tolerance. If they're, especially if they've been training a while, I try to figure that out really fast. Are they a volume guy, an intensity guy, variety guy? And I try to figure out their lifestyle, like the things that hold them back. Because it's always one or two huge fucking things that if I can help them at least acknowledge it and, at least be aware of it and then slowly work with it, it just makes, it turns a 6 months coaching process into a 3 month coaching process. So, yeah.
Let's go into one more post. I like to go through anyone who I bring onto this show, going through their social media stuff and look for some ideas to talk about. And I really like this one. And it's a 2-part question. So your Facebook is filled with great content. Anyone who's listening who is learning about you really for the first time or early on, you really should go and follow Bryan. We'll talk more about how to find you. There's a lot of great stuff there. Your older post notes the worthlessness of diet books written by doctors. Could you care to explain this?
By doctors.
What's that? By doctors. Care to explain why this has become a problem and how to inoculate people against being misled? The second part of the question, of course, is always we ask people, if we're going to talk about shitty books, you got to throw out a really good one that's actually going to be beneficial to people. But Dr. Books first.
Well, that kind of stemmed from, I mentioned I did all this moving. I own a lot of books, and not just like total meathead, just totally laughable books, from the weeder companies, and I just like to collect them. And now everything is an ebook, and it just doesn't have the same kind of for me. Often I don't even read them. But anyway, so I was moving. I'm like, I don't want to move. Books are fucking heavy, and and I'm not terribly strong, and I'm definitely lazy. So I'm like, I don't want to keep moving these boxes all the time. So I'm like, I'm going to purge some. And like, I'm going through it, and there's like, oh man, I've got, I've just acquired them over the years. I've got South Beach Diet, and I've got Dr. Oz book. I forget which one. I mean, this is like, I've been doing this a long time.
Probably
and
I've got like Wheat Belly in there somewhere.
Oh, I have Wheat Belly. Yeah. And I remember I heard him, I went to see him, Bill Davis speak, and I think that's his name. Anyway. Yeah. And some of this is like, he's using the Weston Price research. Like my wife's in dental, and they're always talking about Weston Price, those pictures, because he's the dude who in the 20s or 30s went to like native populations, and he like observed, like their teeth and stuff like that, and how it would change once they were introduced to a Western diet. And so like in the dental industry, they always use his research to show like the effects of the Western diet on teeth. And now Davis is doing it using this exact same photos, going, oh, this is like when we introduced wheat, these people got all unhealthy, and he's showing the pictures of the teeth. And I'm like, I've seen this fucking before. But anyway, I got his book. And I had all these books by doctors, and then I happened to be in chapters, and I went to that diet section, and it's just, half of them are just shit.
It's bullshit. Complete fiction. Like the nutrition diet section of a bookstore should be labeled fiction.
Yeah.
There's nothing good in there.
Like no one will improve, certainly not the look of their body by if they follow 80% of these books. And so, I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, now I look at, like, where do I get information from now? Not to mention for a third time, like a guy like Stan Everday, like somebody who's like, in the industry, like training people, training himself, training clients, and absorbing the science and distilling it into his practice in a meaningful way. Like those are people where I go to first, and in terms of like, stuff that's unimpeachable, like, Brad Schoenfeld's stuff for training, it's great. Nutrition, I've had a hard time lately finding someone that I really want to kind of quote unquote latch onto. I just really just kind of skim.
Have you read Alan Aragon and Lou Schuler's book, The Lean Muscle Diet? I feel like that's actually the best entry-level nutrition book. I guess he's reaching over to grab it.
Yeah,
that one is, guys, if you guys are listening and you are looking for a good nutrition book, that probably is the best one, especially if you're trying to learn as maybe a newer trainer or an enthusiast. It's really accessible. They're great guys. I'm proud because my copy's signed. I got both of them to sign the book.
Mine's on Kindles.
Fuck. Yeah, you can't sign Kindles.
No.
Not really well.
Brian's like, what's a Kindle? Like,
I like Kindle. I bought my mom one.
That one might be the best nutrition book you're probably going to get your hands on.
And you can do your diet. Like, you could basically read that and take control of that shit, and it makes it super fucking simple. Even though it's, well, I guess it is pretty simple once you read it, but like.
And that's the key with diet, is it's got to be simple. Like, it's got to be simple and repeatable.
That's by dudes who know their shit.
Yeah. Like there's so many, like, you can geek out on it later. Like once you're in a good pattern and, your macros are well established, your food choices are good, like then you can kind of geek out on the micros and stuff like that and maybe experiment with things. But your basic diet should be very, very consistent and just something that you can repeat every day. And maybe you go off of it a bit when you travel, but then you come back home and you kind of hop right back on it. And like that book is really, really good for that because it just makes things really, really simple, but not too simple.
Cool. So you're going to throw out a recommendation, some book that you've read personally and professionally you felt was really valuable? We do this every episode, except for the roundtable, which we'll talk about in a second.
Book that's not really valuable. Man, I read so many. Honestly, my biggest, like, as I said, the biggest thing is a lifestyle. Okay. And a consistent lifestyle. And a big part of that is time management. And when you can kind of fix that in your life, all of a sudden applying diet principles gets really, really easy. I really liked Craig Ballantyne's Perfect Day Formula.
Okay.
Ooh,
It's actually,
I just saw that.
Really
I saw
good.
that like a few times recently.
Really good. I mean, and that's just, it speaks more, that speaks more to me personally because I have issues with time management because I have all this shit on the go and all these, different platforms I got to pretend to be smart on. So like this kind of helps me figure out where I need to be and all that. Although it's getting up at 4 a.m., I don't know, I find that difficult, but I'm working on that too. That's a really good one. Training, man, I can't remember the last really good. I love old school training books. That's that. Okay, now I'm gonna kind of out myself. Like I love
the Encyclopedia of
Bill Pearl's Keys to the Universe.
Okay.
Keys to the Inner Universe. Like that's like my, I love stuff like that. I mean, that's what kind of stokes my fire.
So you can tell, man. You smile. It's like, I don't fucking know. Actually, it's this one. Just tell us.
Guys, if you're listening to the audio, you almost have to go check out the YouTube version because Bryan really lights up or makes a lot of faces when we were talking about all this shit. So it's actually quite entertaining.
Yeah, I'm a terrible poker player, man. No poker face.
I'll bet that. I actually met Craig Ballantyne very briefly. He was one of the presenters at Luca Hosevar's event last September in Seattle, or just outside of Seattle in Renton. And Craig was interesting for sure, but I've heard that book a lot. A lot of people have mentioned it. So I think I might finally decide, okay, let's put that on the list because I've been looking for some stuff because I keep blowing through books way too fast. All right, where can... Oh, no, Dean's turn.
Well, this is my question, man. It's a simple one. So we had you on the roundtable, and we kind of already mentioned it, but let's just note again for the new listeners, and I guess everyone else kind of coming to this podcast through you, is that where's the best place to find your shit, your content, your media? Clearly, it's not Facebook, I guess. Where can they hear you whine? Where can they hear you whine about shit?
Probably Facebook might still be best. I mean, what I do is I'll throw stuff up there, and something like, I don't know, if I like something, I'll put it on my blog. So I still maintain my blog, just not enough. But my blog is bryankrahn.com. So BRYANKRAHN.com. But yeah, I'm also on Facebook. I am active on there, sort of.
He won't
on
mind.
Instagram. You can see my dogs and my calves. Today I posted calves. It's a meathead day.
I saw that. It was a few seconds before we logged on here.
Oh, that's why I was late. I was like,
no, you're good.
He's trying to take like 10 pictures of his thing. He's like 2 minutes late. He's like, I fucking need a good picture of my calves. Man, you're just as worse as all the Insta pros.
Speaking of dogs, Penny is right. Dean's dog Penny is under the table, under the desk. So
if I ever look down, it's my fucking dogs. Yeah.
It's funny, man. Like that's what I miss about social media. Everyone was just like dogs and friends and family and I don't know. Okay, I'll say it, boobs. When it was fun. I don't know. That's kind of I miss those days, but
yeah. This episode, boobs gets in there. The last episode, there's some like major ranting about sexual harassment in the industry. But you know what? Like I don't want to go too far down this one, but I think a lot of shit is just pretty normal, and you can't get too twisted about it. And yeah, like the looking good naked thing. Let's be honest about it, and we can appreciate beautiful human beings. But there's also some dark shit. If you really want to explore that dark shit, go to the last episode with Sarah Mormon. That one's pretty savage.
Yeah.
I went off on that one.
Yeah, I would. There's nothing to me that I find creepier than someone who's always putting out. I don't want to use the word white knight because it's so loaded. But just someone who's always putting out that kind of air.
Virtue signaling is the phrase I love.
Virtue signaling,
right?
Signaling.
And you can go down to social justice warrior stuff. So yeah. If anybody found us last episode then goes on to this one, they might get upset.
Man, it's because it's fake. Like you go look at it and you look at that, and you're like, man, this guy's full of shit. Like normal people who are white knights, not loaded, they're just those people. They don't need to tell everyone about it.
Exactly. Like if you're a reasonably good, reasonably upstanding person who's trying to get better and taking care of your family and just a good person, like you don't need to broadcast it. Just fucking be it.
Yeah.
I think some of that white knight shit is all about getting laid too. It's just a different route than getting jacked. I prefer the getting jacked route. Although I'll call shit when it's legitimate, but that's not my message either.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like if you're just, if you're just
full of shit,
fucking normal, honest, decent person, you will call out shit when it needs to be called out. Like it'll just be like, what the fuck? Like it'll just bother you too much, as opposed to like searching for like to put out every little fire so you can make yourself look like a super fireman.
Super fireman.
Anyone who's basically spent their entire waking consciousness the last 3 or 4 days freaking out about Roseanne. I don't even give a shit.
I don't even know. I don't even know what it is.
Don't even. It's
okay. Good.
There's this ideological war where people on one side want to get everybody else on the other side fired, and then they're looking for shit and it's going on both sides. Both sides of the spectrum are just as bad for this crap. So, but we're not going there.
We're not going there.
Nope.
Okay, I'm gonna hit end. Basically, if you're Bryan's fans, fucking give us 5-star reviews. Like we just beg for them at this point. I think we got one every week, so that's bullshit. For fucking 2,000 downloads, we get one fucking review a week. Get your shit together. Anyways.
And guys, again, if you are specifically a fan of Bryan's, maybe this is the first time you found us. He was on a couple episodes ago in this roundtable with Mike Isertel and Spencer Nadolski. They're actual doctor. Well, Spencer's a medical doctor and Mike's a PhD doctor.
He's a fake doctor.
He's a fake doctor.
Yeah. Doctor of paper.
Yeah.
He's a paper doc.
He's smart. So, guys, check that one out. It's really, really fun. And if you really like this one, you know what? Just shoot us a message and we'll tell us what you're interested in. We've got, this will be number 41, I think. And we've got a lot of really amazing guests who are some of Bryan's industry friends, some of our friends, and we just got a lot of really cool shit. So hopefully you'll like it. And if you find a few you like, maybe you'll subscribe to it. Bryan, thanks so much for coming on. This was fun.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Shut up and sit down.